Here's what happened, guys. Our national debt is over $39 trillion. And younger people's future and livelihood have been intergenerationally stolen from them through this hidden tax called inflation. With each generation, the purchasing power of the dollar decreases. And so a dollar today is worth roughly half of the value of a dollar back in 2000. The combination of these two create a massive mess that has been talked about, even debated, but has continued to be pushed down the road, kicked down the road. And it is time that we step up as small business owners, because in this moment in history, we are at a moment of massive change. We are seeing it around us. It is the fourth turning. You may be familiar with that book, but it is a moment in history that we have an opportunity here to channel this massive change into showing what is possible for the potential in the future, from us as Americans on an individual level to then for our country, and to set our country up to be able to thrive for the next 100 years and to bring a renaissance for our future. Because I believe America's future is a small business renaissance. This movement, that is a powerful and exciting movement, is continuing to push this forward. And we're uniting as small business owners. And we got to show to younger people what is possible for the potential of them on an individual level, and then for overall as we unite for a country. Because there is a path that younger people can go down. Anyone can go down this path, but especially younger people. And that is the one of overwhelm, of pessimism, and then nihilism. And we as small business owners have got to shape the future and show the potential of us on an individual level. And then through the hard work that we're doing it within our business, to how we're showing up each day, because we know it is a rough journey to be on as a small business owner. It is not for the weak, but to show the potential there of what we can discover about our own life, about taking care of ourselves, taking care of our family, taking care of our communities, and then leading by example and leading in how we communicate through integrity, honesty, and holding on to our moral values, and not just disregarding them in order to make a profit, but actually being able to create businesses that also bring in our moral values and principles as a guiding path moving forward for our nation. And there has been a lot of short-term thinking that has created a lot of havoc, mess, devastation for our country, and it's time that it stops. And we have got to unite as small business owners and put a stop to this and figure out different ways to be able to work with elected officials, to working with each other, to working with the other Americans, to working with our communities over on a local level, to state level, to federal level, to make a change where we can shape the future and bring about the small business renaissance. So what I want to do today is set the stage for you. So welcome back. Happy Friday. Let's get into it for today. I want to set the groundwork because it's a massive problem that we got to deal with. It's $39 trillion. It's a big problem. Okay, I'm going to get we're going to bring back the debt clock here so you can look at this on your screen. But this is a big problem. And then, so you see here the U.S. national debt over $39 trillion. Then if you go down, from there, it's probably like 5 o'clock. If you move on down, so it's interest on debt. You could see that where it's about to hit $1 trillion in interest on this debt. And so we have got to deal with this now. I mean, it is something that we all realize is a problem, but we have to courageously take action on it and expect and prepare for a lot of pain. A lot of pain is going to come with this. Within our businesses, across over 1,000 industries here in the U.S., to our own personal lives, to our communities, to our country overall, it's going to happen. Okay, it's going to happen, and so we got to prepare for that pain and realize that we can get through this pain because when we unite together and continue to put in the hard work, the discipline, and continue to move forward, we're going to be able to get through this as a country. And it goes back to e pluribus unum, out of many one. We're one on this. So what I want to do is share with you some ideas, how we can think about it on an individual level to then local community level and then federal level. I also want to talk about something that does not make sense to me relating to you as a business accepting cash. I actually think cash There's a big push moving forward. I did an episode on this about cash, but a big movement moving forward into the future to continue to use cash to be. It's that feeling of being independent, the freedom with cash, and then not moving towards a mass surveillance country where we get to preserve our individual rights. And not feel like we have a big brother overseeing all of us. Cash is a good way to push back on that and to continue to circulate cash within our economic systems. So I did a whole episode on that, but I want to talk about this form that business owners have to fill out, and I think about how much of a burden it adds to small businesses that make it more difficult and less incentivized to want to take cash and instead want to go towards credit cards, debit cards. And we got to talk about it if it makes sense anymore to have this form, and how can we change this law? So that I'm going to get into, but let me start back on an individual level for you as some ideas, and I want to learn more about your ideas too. As a small business owner or just as an American, let me know what your ideas are for how we could deal with this $39 trillion mess that we got to clean up. We have to, but on an individual level. It's in your day. Make sure you're doing more, not just in your day, but overall in your life. You can think about this on different levels. If it's monthly to yearly, make sure you're doing more energizing habits than draining habits. It's simple, but it's important to do an audit on what you're doing throughout your day. Make sure you're having more energizing than draining habits, and then from there, making sure within your business systems that you see where there could be opportunities to take in more cash and to be able to avoid the 3% processing fee that can come with credit cards. But the other aspect within your systems is how can we continue to localize our supply chains? This is something I really didn't think about. I started my first business over 11 years ago. Started off as a DJ, but I didn't even think about that of focusing on localizing my supply chain, looking for American vendors for businesses that could support me within my business, for the supplies that I need for my business. And we're not thinking about that enough, I don't believe, in this country. We got to continue to have those conversations and vocalize that. So within that's on the local supply chain side of it. And then with all the chaos that is out there and we're experiencing massive change right now, how can we simplify the environment? And one way is looking at taxes. What taxes don't make any sense? And we got tax season here is coming up. And it's like, what doesn't make sense for taxes that small businesses are having to pay? And then we can even broaden that out to all Americans. But let's start with small businesses. Well, one could be hospitality tax. I think I've talked about it before here on the show. The one in South Carolina was created in 1997. It was after I was born, where a city can have an additional hospitality tax for certain businesses. And that, for me, doesn't make sense anymore as a tax because, one, is there oversight to be able to know exactly where these funds are going, specifically outlined, or is it just going to a general fund? And the more you look at it, at least from the one I saw, it just goes into a general fund. So then the other question that we can ask ourselves is, okay, would that make it way less stressful for a small business owner to have to offset that cost by giving it to the person that is buying their products? And would it be less stressful each month to have to send a check for thousands of dollars to pay this tax? I would say yes. And that could help a lot for the overall feelings of stress as a small business owner. And then even help to create new potential opportunities within the business. But taxes is what you got to continue to look at. And it's not crazy to get into every single tax. We're talking payroll tax, if that's Social Security, to Medicare. We got to talk about it. We got to bring it in. And it's not crazy to do this. You're not a bad guy for doing this. It's common sense to look at it all and see where things just don't make any sense anymore. And I am an empathetic guy. I'm a caring guy. I believe in safety nets, but not something that turns into cabana. And so we got to figure out a different approach. We have to. And with the amount of fraud that we're seeing across the country in our states, I covered the one in Minnesota, and then California. We're talking in the billions, and these are the estimates. And we know that this is our best guess here. I mean, again, this is my opinion that it's happening in way more states that it isn't getting covered. And so we got to ask ourselves: does this make more sense to pay more in taxes for more opportunities for fraud to be committed? Like that is something we have to keep talking about and addressing in all of our in all of the different taxes that we're having to pay, because I believe we will be shocked as to how how much money, how much less money is needed to run our government than we are paying in taxes. I really believe we'd be shocked with that number. And it is not crazy to start to push back and ask questions, and especially get curious where things don't make any sense. So that is on the tax side of it. And then federal, this is where I want to bring up. I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to do a little bit more research on this. But there's an act that I want to focus on, that I want to share with you now, and you may be familiar with it, you may not, but it's called the Bank Secrecy Act, and this was signed into law during Nixon administration in 1970. And what this law required back in 1970 was for financial institutions, the specific part I want to focus on is it required financial institutions to report when there was over $10,000 deposited in their banks, and like create a report on that. What happened though was in 1984 there was a Tax Reform Act where then it not just required financial institutions to do this, but it required then businesses to do this, and this was to combat money laundering, criminal activities, and so the Tax Reform Act in 1984. It required businesses to do this, and it would be in the form of 8300 is a form. So let me share with you with my I'm going to share on my screen here the page on the form. So here it is. So I'm going to read it here. This is on the IRS website. I'll read this section right here for you. Generally, if you're in a trade or business and receive more than $10,000 in cash in a single transaction or in a related transactions, you must file Form 8300. The Form 8300, Report of Cash Payments Over $10,000 in a Trade or Business, provides valuable information to the Internal Revenue Service and the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network in their efforts to combat money laundering. Money is laundered to conceal illegal activity, including crimes that generate the money itself, such as drug trafficking, tax evasions, and terrorist financing. So that's a lot. How does that make you feel as a business owner to want to collect cash for payments? It kind of the feeling is it de-incentivizes you to want to take in cash. And that is where we got to get curious and ask questions. Why is that? And then has this actually helped to decrease the amount of criminal organizations that are out there and have actually stopped fraud from happening, or money laundering, or criminal organizations? Because what this looks like to me is it's putting way more burden and unnecessary paperwork for small business owners to be able to take the hardworking, decent Americans that are small business owners that want to take in cash for bigger amounts, and it creates an extra level of burden for these business owners. So then we have to ask the pros and cons here. Does this actually help to decrease the amount of criminal organizations that have been established since 1970? And this we can go to. I'm going to go to the DOJ website for this one here. I'll read for you a section here. So let me get this up for you. Okay, here we go. So starting in the 1970s, but accelerating in the early 1990s, a new form of organized crime took hold. The combination of a new geopolitical climate, a globalized world economy, and resulting softer borders, and a revolution in information technology available to crime groups hastened a shift. Crime groups changed from domestic organized crime groups that were regional in scope and hierarchically structured to criminal organizations that are global and transnational in nature, increasingly networked with other criminal groups, and often flatter in structure The U.S. Department of Justice defines transnational organized crime in part as self-perpetuating associations of individuals that operate internationally for the purpose of attaining power, influence, monetary, and/or commercial gains, wholly or in part by illegal means, while protecting their activities through a pattern of corruption and/or violence, or while protecting their illegal activities through international organizational structure and the exploitation of international commerce or communication mechanisms. So, that's a lot. That's a lot. So we got to look it up then, and something you can take on your own time to do this and look up, has there become more organized crime or less organized crime since 1970? Since, again, going back to this act, the Bank Secrecy Act signed into law during the Nixon administration in 1970. So the other act that we got to look at, and we're going to take the time to dive deeper into, is the U.S. Patriot Act in 2001, which helps the government fight broader financial crimes like terrorism and money laundering. So this is a financial crimes enforcement network. And what now happened is, by filling out the form, it's not just for tax purposes, but it's now for national security purposes, and that can make you feel uneasy. For having to fill out this form. It can feel like Big Brother. And then even originally for the Secrecy Act, for the Bank Secrecy Act, there was concerns with violations of the Fourth Amendment. Supreme Court upheld the act, but we got to still get curious and ask questions here when it comes to privacy, because the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, its mission is to safeguard the financial system from illicit activity, counter money laundering and the financing of terrorism, and promote national security through strategic use of financial authorities and collection, analysis, and dissemination of financial intelligence. So the question we got to continue to ask ourselves is, does this make sense anymore to be filling out this form 8300 to create more of a burden for good, hardworking, decent Americans who want to continue to take in cash on a larger scale from customers for their small business, so we can continue to circulate money in the local economy? Doesn't make sense. And what comes up for me is the answer is no, it does not make sense anymore. But we got to continue to get curious and ask questions and look at ways that we can move forward to make changes. And this is one area that makes sense, because then with the act itself, let me get up the Fourth Amendment so you can see that too. And again, when was the last time you read the Constitution and read Bill of Rights? It's important to understand these. So here in the Constitution, the Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. And so to avoid the government having more power over us, the American people, because we've got to be reminded the government is there to serve us, the American people. This is something we have to get curious and ask questions of. Does this make sense anymore to have this form? Tax, the form, let me get that up here, 8300. Because this takes a tax on our time, too. We think about that. Time as a business owner, the stress, you got to make sure that you're taking the time to fill this out correctly, because there's this added fear that can build up. And I think it is wrong for hardworking, decent Americans that have a small business that want to take on more cash. I think it's wrong for us to feel like we have this fear that we're doing something wrong when we're not. Or this feeling that we may do something wrong when we're not, when we're just trying to create a better life for ourselves, for our families, for our communities. And we do need to push back. We need to work with our elected officials on this one, and look at ways to be able to change the law when it comes to this Form 8300. But we're going to get into that more because that is an important piece to how we continue to move forward and figure out this massive $39 trillion mess that we have. So now that we have the groundwork set up, we're going to get into these different areas and focus on them next week, even more in depth. And then I also want to you let me know what I may be missing here, where to look and search more for ways that we can be able to clean up this $39 trillion mess, because it has to happen. We've got to focus on this. It cannot be, we can't keep pushing this down the road for future generations. We have to step up here. And then if you are a small business owner that wants to connect with other small business owners in person who love this country, care about this country, I love this country, I hope you love this country, and care about this country too. And so you can join us in Charleston, South Carolina for A Future Fest. This is where you can register, afuturefest.com. It's happening on January 14th and 15th, 2027. Expected, the plan is to have over 300 small business owners across industries, across the country coming together to shape the future and to bring this future of America's future, to make America's future a small business renaissance. Small businesses are the heart of the economy. We got to continue to be reminded of the impact that we can have. There are 36 million small businesses here in the U.S. that employ 45% of the private workforce. That is a big impact, and can be an amazing positive impact in shaping the future moving forward. And we got to continue to unite and move forward and clean up the messes that are out there. So I'm excited for that event, and then I will see you guys next week.